Now, you may have seen some of the videos I've made about working in Illustrator on the iPad, but today I'm going to talk about an app that lets you connect your iPad to Illustrator on the desktop and use your iPad as a drawing tablet. And this is called Astropad. So Astropad is an app that you install on your tablet and on your computer so they can talk to each other. And then you can not only work here on your iPad, but just sort of move back and forth with your mouse and your keyboard. So I've really been enjoying using it. It's been around for a long time, but I've kind of rediscovered it recently. And some of the great things about it are it works for Mac and PC. It works for not only Adobe Illustrator, but Photoshop, Affinity, and other apps. And it's better than regular screen mirroring because Astropad adds controls and tools here specifically for drawing. So I'm really enjoying working with that. Now, you can use it over a Wi-Fi connection, but I recommend using a USB cable to connect the iPad to your computer. It's just faster and a more stable connection. So before we dive in, if we haven't met, my name is Laura. I'm an illustrator who teaches Adobe Illustrator here on YouTube. On my channel, I've got tutorials that are great for beginners or more advanced users, and I'd really love to have you as a subscriber. So please hit that button. All right, I'm excited to talk about Astropad and Illustrator. Let's get started. Once you've installed Astropad Studio on both your iPad and your desktop computer, then all you got to do is launch it on the iPad, and then you're going to go over to your desktop and launch it there so they can get connected. So I'm going over to my laptop computer. I'm launching Astropad Studio here, and you can choose which display you want to use Astropad on. I'm going to click OK, and we see here on my computer we have these marching ants, and I can actually move this around to a different screen location. I can resize it, but this is the area of my monitor that's going to be mapped to my iPad. And we can also control this here on the computer by going up to zoom, this menu here, or we can choose 100%, 200%, or full screen. And watch what happens when I go into full screen. Now those dotted lines are really all the way at the edge, and we're seeing the full screen mirrored on the iPad. Now let's jump over to the iPad so we can see what this looks like. So here we're seeing the full screen from my desktop mirrored to the iPad. This is what it would look like if you were doing regular screen mirroring without using the Astropad app. And so this is what Astropad adds. It adds some functionality here that makes it easier to draw. So one of the things I'm going to do is grab this red button, which you can kind of move around here. And if you hold down on it, you'll see that checkerboard and some more controls that let you do the screen mapping here on the iPad. So I'm going to tap on the 100% so we go back to that. And this will be a better drawing experience because the interface won't be scaled down. It's going to be the same size that I'm used to seeing it at on my computer. And then I can zoom in and out on my artwork using touch gestures. Now I do want to change the position on screen, so I'm going to hold down again on that red button and use 2 fingers to drag the interface around here so I can see the toolbar on the left-hand side. And now I like how this is set up. So this red button lets you see where the settings are, where you can customize the controls. And if I tap on the red Workspace button, I'm going to the sidebar that's going to have specific tools and controls that work with Adobe Illustrator. I can move the sidebar to either side of the screen by tapping in the little tread at the top corner. If I want to go back to where I can edit these controls, I'll tap on the word Studio. To get back to the Workspace, tap on Workspace. The Illustrator logo is also a button. So if I tap on this, we're going to see an app switcher. I can switch to any of my other open apps here. I'll tap again to put that away. And then at the bottom of this sidebar, I can tap on Quick Keys to add these shortcuts to some of the common modifier keys that we use: Shift, Control, Option, etc. Now this is customizable, so I can add other keys here. And the whole menu here is customizable, and we'll take a look at that. But first, let's just talk a little bit about the drawing experience. So I'm going to just select this and tap the delete key on my keyboard. There's also a delete key on the sidebar. And then I'm going to grab the pen tool and show you how this looks. So I'm just tapping to create some lines here. And it's a little different if you have an iPad like I do that is older. This one is a 2020 iPad, and it doesn't have hover support like a lot of more recent iPads that are like an M2 and higher. So you don't see the rubber band preview on an older iPad here, and you won't see the cursor until you literally tap the screen. And that's fine, but you will probably have a better experience than me if you have a newer iPad. And then you can always use the little on-screen keyboard here to use the modifier keys. So here I'm just using Option or Alt to break that curve handle. Now I'll just delete that, and let's move on to working with the Paintbrush tool. So I'm going to choose a brush that I have here, calligraphic brush that I set up. I'll double tap on this so that you can see that this has already been set up for pressure sensitivity and a wide variation. I have another video here on YouTube that I'll link to so you can see this. And I also have tutorials and courses about this in my membership. I'm going to tap OK here. And then let me grab the paintbrush tool, and then let's start drawing with this. So you can see with light pressure and then with heavier pressure, it's thicker like that. And then when I release, we have that brush appearance. I can also hold down on the Option key to use the Smooth tool. So because we're in Illustrator, we have all of those tools at our fingertips. And Astropad, if I tap on Studio and we go to the Pencil and Stroke menu here, scroll down a bit, and you can see where we have the ability to set a pressure curve. We can customize that and work with pressure smoothing. So these are some additional settings that Astropad offers to help with your particular pressure and the way you draw on your iPad. And if you're on a PC or you have trouble setting this up, you can always go into Learn and Support or go to the Astropad website for more information. And now I'm just going to delete this. And then I'm going over to Illustrator on my laptop, and I'm going to go to the Workspace switcher here and turn on a workspace that I already have saved. So this is a great way to work with Astropad because you can set up a workspace that's going to look good on the iPad screen. Now let's go back over to the iPad, and the panel that I included in this workspace is actually a plugin. This is the Astute Graphics Ink Flow tool, and I thought this would be a fun way to show that Astropad works with the plugins that you have installed in Illustrator. I'm going to grab this Paintbrush tool, and then you just draw like this. It's pressure sensitive, but you can also work here while that stroke is live and just change the settings on the fly here with these sliders. I'll delete that, and I'm going to turn on a sketch here in my layers panel and just see what I can do with this. So it's just a really nice drawing experience here, and it's much better, of course, than me working on my regular tablet that doesn't have a screen on it. And because I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy a new tablet or not, I thought that this was going to be, worth a try. And I know Astropad has a free trial, so if you have an iPad, this might be something fun that you want to try out as well. All right, so one more drawing thing. Let's look at the Illustrator pencil tool. And I have a tear off tool panel here, so I'm just going to grab the pencil tool. And one thing as you're working with the Illustrator pencil tool, there's just that faint little blue line as you draw. That's really not much of a preview, but that's the way the Illustrator pencil tool works. And I'll raise the point size so we can see this. So that little faint blue line there is not much of a preview, but Astropad gives you this little pink streak here. And that sort of helps you see as you're drawing. And this is also editable and adjustable as well. So let's go back over to our editing space here under Studio. And let's go to Pencil and Stroke. And then here's where you're going to find those options. So that's where you can set it to magenta. I have it set to long, but you can also customize the length of that as well. And for a tool like the pencil tool, it's just really helpful. It gives you just a little bit more visual feedback. So I really like that. Now, before we wrap up, let's look at customizing the tools really quick. So I'm tapping on Studio, and then I'm going to tap on Edit Workspace. And here we can see where we can remove or add tools here. We can add a separator or add a shortcut. And you can see here I've added the scissors tool and the artboard tool. And these are just set up with keystrokes, kind of like you would do over on Illustrator. So whenever you tap in a field, you get a keyboard here and you can add a keyboard shortcut. You can also do the same thing with the quick keys down here. And you can see I've added one for the shape builder. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the red icon there to delete this, tap delete. And then here we'll just go ahead and add one from scratch. So I'm going to tap there on the plus sign. I'm going to call this shape build. I think we only have a few letters there. And then I'll tap to enter a keystroke. And when you do this, if it's a 2 keystroke shortcut, you're going to want to hold down, in this case, on the Shift key and then tap the M while you're holding it. So Shift M is the keyboard shortcut for the Shape Builder tool. So once you get those two in there, and if you miss it the first time, just delete and start over again. But once you get it in there, then tap on Add. And now you have that tool. So if I go back at the top, going back to my workspace here and here, let's try out our new shape builder tool. I'll draw another line there and select those and then tap on the shape builder tool. I'm just holding that down and then I'm going to tap and hold on the Option or Alt key. And I'm just using Option Alt to trim off those little extra lines there. So I usually do this kind of work on the iPad and then open the cloud document from Illustrator on the iPad to Illustrator on the desktop. But when I draw here in Illustrator just using the iPad as a drawing tablet, there's less interruption in the flow, in the creative flow. So I've done a drawing like this, and then I can move over to repeating it and cutting it like this. I have some examples here where I was working, with a feature like live paint or recolor artwork, all those great things inside, the full version of Illustrator that makes it so great to work with, and just sort of going back and forth using the iPad just sitting here next to my computer has been really nice for the creative flow. All right, well, I hope my video helps you get up and running if you're thinking of using Astropad. And if you do, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you think of it. My name's Laura Coyle. I love talking about Adobe Illustrator. And if you join my email list, I'll send my Illustrator tips straight to your inbox. And thank you so much for watching.